Everyone, please check your cell phones, silence them, turn them off, whatever you need to do, in respect for our speaker this evening. And speaking of our speaker, this is one of our founding members of this group. I love this man with all my heart. Not only is he my sponsor, the man who helped me through the steps and helped me realize that this thing does work. He often told me that I could be sober, I could stay sober, money, no money, wife, no wife, job, no job. But the greatest thing he's done for me is he is the living embodiment that this thing does work. Through good times and bad, you'll hear in this story that it does work. One of the biggest tragedies we could imagine as a parent befalls him, and he walked right through it with his head high. I love him. Jerry Green, come on up.
I'm Jerry Green. I'm very grateful, recovered alcoholic. Golly, I just want to cry. There's so many people in here that I love so much. And so many new people, and that's so cool. It's just awesome. Okay, well, I'm glad they told me I could go ahead and go 3 hours, and it's a good thing because I'm 65 years old and my life story started a long time ago. So first I was born. Oh, no, we won't get into all of that. The one thing we have to offer in Alcoholics Anonymous, the one thing we have to offer is hope. When a newcomer comes through that door, we love on them and we give them hope. And it's the most important thing because I don't know how y'all were, but when I got here, I was hopeless. And I didn't think this thing was going to work. I actually think I tried to prove it wouldn't work, and it worked just fine. I was raised in Brownsville, New Mexico. I was adopted, and I was convinced that the reason I felt different from anybody else for all those years was because I was adopted. I never really seemed like I fit in. Today I know that that was a symptom of this disease called alcoholism. They say that we're egomaniacs with an inferiority complex. Nothing was ever just okay. I could feel too good for a situation or not good enough for it in the same moment. That's insanity. And that's okay because I've got a disease in my brain that affects me that way. And I know that today, and it's okay. I always felt different. I tried drinking at a really early age. I came over to La Mesa, Texas, and hanging out with my uncle and my cousin, going to go deer hunting, and out on their lease. And the day we were supposed to go hunting, me and my cousin found his fifth tequila in the garage. And my cousin drank a little bit of that and said, And I ended up drinking way too much of it, of course. And all I can remember was 3 days of being really sick and being in a lot of trouble. And I swore I'd never drink again. I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. But as time moved on, I got introduced to some other things that I really did like marijuana and some stuff like that. And I began using that a lot. And for me, it wasn't just, for me, it was the whole lifestyle. I couldn't just be the guy that went and got a little bit of pot. I had to be the guy that drove to El Paso and got a whole bunch and sold it to everybody. I got in some trouble behind that, and I ended up, when I graduated high school, I went into the Navy. And my next experience with drinking was I went through boot camp, everything went good, and the night before we were supposed to leave boot camp, they let us go to the NCO club. And you gotta remember, I'm from Roswell, New Mexico, and I'm down there in Orlando, Florida, this NCO club. You walked in there, and the place was huge, and there were pretty girls, and they were all drinking these drinks in all these different colors with umbrellas sticking up out of the glass. It made made a memory to me. And so I decided, well, I'll just have one of a few different kinds of these. When you got back to your barracks, you were supposed to salute and say, request permission to come aboard, sir. I got back to my barracks, threw up and passed out. Got in a lot of trouble over that one. Again, bad experience around drinking. Because I always drank way too much. So, I was in the Navy for a while and I got out and I ended up getting a job on a drilling rig. And moved over to Lovington, New Mexico and got a job on a drilling rig. And back then you didn't get days off and they made you double a lot. And they'd give me these little capsules and I'd take them and stay up and double and it wasn't no big deal. Later I found out they were full of methamphetamine, was why. And I ended up, before long I was shooting that stuff up and selling it all over the place and ended up getting busted in Andrews, Texas for that. And they sentenced me to 10 years in TDC when I was 27, 28, anyway. I went down there and got put on a unit, 80% life sentences, because I'm a big guy, so they thought I could handle that. Anyway, I had an experience down there. I'm 6'7", the racks are 6'5". You never sleep with your head to the bars because somebody might cut your throat, so you sleep with your feet. And my feet were hanging out one night and they rolled the steel doors and they cut my toe off, one of my toes off. And I hopped with a sock with my toe in it to the infirmary. They didn't give me Novocaine or anything. They just stitched it up and threw me in this prison hospital room. And I was in there and I was furiously writing a letter to my cousin telling him, I need this, I need this, I need this, all this stuff to cook meth with when I got out. And I had a spiritual experience. Something came over me and I thought, I don't want to live this way anymore. And I tumbled out of that bed and got on my knees, and it was something, I don't know what happened, but something drastic happened, because 5 minutes later I was tearing up that letter and I wrote a new letter, still got a copy of it, to the Andrews County paper, and they actually published it. And my first wife had divorced me when I went to prison, and I wrote that letter, they put it in the paper, and Mindy read it, and she was struggling to get off drugs herself, and she read it and she started writing to me, and we wrote back and forth for 8 months. And I moved out. I moved in with her when I got out of prison, and I've been living with her ever since. I know that God put that together. I know that was a spiritual thing. Yet when I got out, for a little while I tried to go to some youth groups and talk to them and stuff, but you know, we got busy. She had some kids, we had some more kids that are in this room tonight, right over there. I started out being an electrician's helper, and I had some really good success and got to be an electrician, and then I got a truck, and then I got some more trucks, and at the heyday of this whole deal, I was had like 59 employees spread from Texas all the way up to Wyoming, and shops all the way up there and stuff. And I thought, you know, I'm probably the poster guy for ADHD. I bet I got ADHD. So I went to the doctor and answered all the questions so he'd give me some of that Adderall. And he did. And it's just methamphetamine in another form. And then I couldn't sleep, and I picked up a bottle of vodka. And I got past where I had the hangovers pretty fast. And I drank for 11 years, and in 11 years I almost died. Now, I was that guy that could get up at 4 a.m. no matter if I passed out the night before and start trying to work and send emails and do this and do this. So I would have told you I was a functioning alcoholic. But I bet if you ask my children that are in this room, they didn't think I was functioning that well. I know my wife didn't. My wife ended up addicted on pain pills, and really bad. And at one point she decided, me or him's got to do something about this, and one of us is going to die if we don't. And so she did it, as she always does. She did exactly the opposite of what I told her. I told her, don't you go down there to that AA building. In Andrews, Texas, the AA building's about a quarter of this size. And it had at the most, I think, one time we had 12 people at a meeting. But they were big book thumpers. And she went down there and she told them, I don't even know if I'm in there. She's crying. I don't know if I'm even in the right place. I'm an addict. And they told her, you don't ever have to do this again. And got her a sponsor and started taking her through the work. Thank God they didn't trip over their singleness of purpose and say, get out, you're not in the right place. Because we didn't have no NA meetings and stuff like that. Anyway, she tapered herself off a massive amount of those opiates over the next month and got clean. And I hated it. Because the deal had always been, I keep her in plenty of pain pills, and she didn't gripe about my drinking. My drinking buddy was gone. She sobered up. So I thought, well, I better see what the hell's going on down there at that AA building. Because I told her, don't be going down there and telling all our business, because this is a small town and we don't want anybody to know we're addicts and drunks. Like everybody didn't know anyway. So I went down to that AA building and they started talking to me, and I got me a sponsor, and I made it about 2 weeks and then I'd drink. And I'd make it about 2 weeks and then I'd drink. I wanted to want to stop, but I wasn't desperate. Finally, at some point, we had a big fancy house, 15 acres, all fenced off with that white fiberglass fence, quarter horses, boats, motorcycles, anything. That was at the point too where we were just giving the kids money to go away. Y'all remember those days? Yeah. It looked great from the outside, but on the inside it reminds me of that deal they talk about in the Bible about a whitewashed tomb with decaying on the inside, and that's how our house was. It was full of the disease on the inside. Everything was chaos. But one day, upstairs, I was really drunk, and I'd been listening to speaker tapes that my sponsor would give me, and finally I told my wife, get me in that treatment center where that Chris Raymer dude is. He don't care if I use his name. Hell, he was using it up here a couple weeks ago, right? And somehow she got that done. And then my son that's here was 21 years old at the time. Him and his wife drove me from Andrews, Texas to Laha, which isn't a short trip, with me so drunk all the way that 24 hours before I walked in there, I drank a half gallon of vodka and most of a fifth, I think. And they poured me out at the treatment center. And I don't remember anything for 7 days other than they couldn't control my blood pressure. My liver was totally screwed up. Everything was messed up. But about a week after that, I remember coming to in that, what they call down there, the bodega, where they teach classes. And I got that little short one-eyed guy. Y'all know who I'm talking about this far from my face, tell me, buddy, don't you understand? And I finally had a step one experience. They finally explained it to me. I have a physical allergy to alcohol and drugs. If I put it in my body demands more and more of it. Now, I don't know if it meets all the technical terms for an allergy these days or not, but it means basically an abnormal reaction. 10 to 15% of us are alcoholic or addict. The rest of the people aren't. So our reaction to alcohol and drugs is abnormal because theirs is normal, although I don't understand it. B. Here a while back, sitting on a plane going somewhere, and I'm in the aisle seat, and up ahead of me in the aisle seat on the opposite side, there's this guy. It's 9 in the morning. This guy orders a screwdriver. They bring him the glass with the ice, and they bring him this little bitty thing of vodka. And I'm watching this guy. And he pours about half of that little bottle of vodka into there and stirs it up with some orange juice, you know. And then I'm watching him, and he's just sitting there stirring it and stuff, and I'm like, drink it. This is alcohol abuse. Damn, drink it. And he maybe took 2 sips off that thing on the whole flight, And then when she come by with the trash can, he throwed the bottle and the rest of that drink into that trash can. And I was like, oh my God. See, I don't understand normal people when they drink like that. But I got to remember something. They can't understand me either. So when they're telling you things like, if you loved her enough, you'd quit. If you cared about your kids, you'd quit. They don't understand. And they're never gonna, but that's okay. Because I got that physical allergy. And then I got that mental obsession, right? I got that mental obsession where I just don't feel comfortable in my own skin. And the longer you take alcohol or drugs away from an alcoholic or an addict, and they get worse, not better, without some kind of solution. I get crazier and crazier and crazier. And I start getting restless, irritable, and discontent. And I'm telling everybody, oh, I've been sober 2 weeks. I feel better. Oh, you look better. Yeah, I'm going to start going to the gym, all that stuff. And I'm lying because inside my brain is screaming. Every time somebody cuts, it's like a spring in here. Somebody cuts in front of me in traffic. Click. The kids get smart. Click. Something don't go right at work. Click. And it just keeps getting tighter and tighter. And I feel like that spring's going to explode and take my whole head with it. And then that obsession hits me. And when that obsession hits me, I am not going to call my sponsor. I am not going to do any of that stuff. I am going to go get drunk. Period. I've never beat the mental obsession one time in my life, ever. So you couple that mental obsession with that physical allergy, and that's what makes me powerless in step one. We admitted we were powerless. I got a brain telling me it's going to be okay this time. You're not going to get too drunk this time. You're not going to wreck your truck this time. You're not going to get a DWI this time. And I believe that. In the book it says we can't differentiate the truth from the false. The truth when we get here is our experience, right? What's our experience around drugs and alcohol? What's our experience around alcohol? It's bad, right? That's the truth. But the false is that little piece of my brain telling me it's going to be okay. You can do it this time. It's going to work. And I can't differentiate the truth from the false. So, I'm powerless. Now, I didn't like to admit powerlessness. That's not how I was raised. You get out there and go out into this hostile world and you claw and scratch and get everything you need for you and yours. And it'll be okay. We weren't admitting we were powerless. But then we get to the whole key to this thing. Our lives have become unmanageable. Everybody thinks my life's unmanageable. I can't pay my rent. My life's unmanageable. I can't stay in this relationship. My life's unmanageable. I got to go to court. It's not talking about any of that external stuff. That external stuff cannot make me drink, and it can't make me happy. Vehicles and all that stuff, it won't make me happy. The unmanageability they're talking about is on page 52 of this big book. We were having trouble with personal relationships. We couldn't control our emotional natures. We were prey to misery and depression. We couldn't make a living. Or if we could make a living, we couldn't make a life. We had a feeling of uselessness. We were full of fear. I know all you guys are going to tell me I ain't scared of nothing. Yeah, you are. Trust me, I said the same thing. Found out a big part of my life was run on fear. We were unhappy. We couldn't seem to be a real help to other people. This is what's kicking my butt. This is why in any circumstance, it's never quite right. Because I'm miserable in my own skin. I can have a great day where I made a ton of money and all that stuff, and what do I need to do? I'm still not happy the way I feel. I need to celebrate. Right? Or I can have a horrible day where everything goes wrong, and what do I need to do? I need to escape. Anybody ever drink when it was cloudy? Sun shining? Yeah. We could go on and on and on and on. So if anybody tries to tell you that you're getting triggered to drink by something, remember this. The only trigger there is Roy Rogers' horse. We drink because we're alcoholics. We don't drink because we get triggered. We drink because we're alcoholics. And that seems like a bad piece of news, but it's actually the best piece of news we have. Because when we treat the alcoholism with a higher power, with these steps and these actions, it goes away. I don't have to get drunk regardless of anything or anybody today. Nothing can make me drink because I'm safe and protected. If you can relate to any of those things we're talking about, the bedevilments, that's on page 52, that's what the whole problem really is. So I'm not okay, and I need to change the way I feel, and I think it's going to be okay, and I drink, and then it isn't okay. It isn't ever okay. Does that make sense? In this book, it tells us that selfishness and self-centeredness is the root of our trouble. Now, all this time I thought alcohol was the root of my trouble. I work at a treatment center, and we get them guys in there all the time, and the first thing I tell them is, you're not here to quit drinking and drugging. You're here to learn a new way to live to where you won't have to drink or drug. And all that stuff about trying to stay sober one day at a time, that is not my experience. My experience is I worked these steps, I got connected to God, God took the obsession away, and I've lived a happy, joyous, and free life ever since. That's the hope of the program. Not that I'm going to be fighting this damn disease for the rest of my life, because if I am, I'm going to lose. Right? It's game-changing. It's life-changing. Now, I got on step 1 and I kind of understood it finally. And then step 2, I had a real problem with step 2. Because here's the thing about step 2. It's got the word God or higher power all in that chapter, we agnostics. I didn't like that. I grew up in a Baptist church that was so fundamental they thought all the Southern Baptists were going to hell. And the day I left that church, I'll never forget the day I left that church, was on a Sunday. I was 14. I was sitting there, and they were preaching hellfire and brimstone. And that preacher said, if you even look at a girl like you want to do something with her, you're going to hell. And I'm sitting there, and about 45 minutes earlier, I had been making out with his daughter on the church bus. And I left that church, and I never went back. And see, I thought that meant I had given up on God. I thought that meant I didn't believe in God. So when I got to this and saw all this God stuff, I didn't like it. But you know one thing about step 2, it says we came to believe. It doesn't say we have to believe it right now. It says we came to believe. And then when you read it, step 2, you can boil the whole chapter down to one sentence. Do I now believe, or am I even willing to believe there's a power greater than me? If they hadn't put that willing part in there, I'd have never got sober. But I had that gift of desperation. I had to at least admit, I'll keep an open mind. And you know what? That was good enough. After a few years in the program and really looking at some of this stuff, I realized I thought I hated God. I didn't hate God. So then I thought, well, it's Christianity I hate. But then I had to look at that. I didn't hate Christianity. I thought I hate Baptists. That's what I hate. And I looked at that and I didn't hate Baptists either. And then I thought, well, I just hate them fundamental Baptists. I didn't hate the fundamental Baptists either. I hated a few people that I saw doing a bunch of weird stuff in that church that didn't line up. That was what my resentment at. It wasn't God at all. So, we make a big mistake in Alcoholics Anonymous. We say, pick your own conception of God, and that gets interpreted as pick your own God. That door handle can be my higher power. Don't trust it, it'll turn on you. We're talking about the creator of the universe. Whatever conception you want to have at this moment, it's fine. It doesn't matter. You know, when I got here, I thought, well, it's all about what I think, feel, and believe. And my sponsor was real quick to point out to me that I was much too ill to have any valid thoughts, beliefs, or opinions. You know? So I said, okay, I'm willing to keep an open mind. And then we got to step 3. Oh, God, now you want me to turn my will and my life over to something I don't even believe in? Yep. And he explained to me all I'm doing is understanding that my whole life's been run on selfishness. Selfishness and self-centeredness. And I told him, I am not selfish and self-centered. I have all these employees. I pay not only their health insurance, but their family's health insurance. I treat my kids good. I treat my wife good. And I'm kind to some people. And he said, you're a selfish bastard. That's what he said. And I said, no, I'm not. And I went through that whole litany of reasons I wasn't selfish. And he said, yes, you are. And I said, no, I'm not. And we went through them again. And this guy was about this tall, old man. And I was like, really wanting to punch this old man, but I didn't. And finally he said, Jerry, hush. You don't even understand what selfishness means. And I didn't understand what selfishness means. I thought selfishness meant I didn't love my family. And I loved my family. I thought selfishness meant I didn't take care of the people that I need to take care of. But I did do those things. That's not what selfishness means. Selfishness means the way I feel is more important in any given moment than anything else. That's what selfishness means. So if I was feeling like I need to make some money, then I set out to make some money first thing, no matter what. Whatever it was I felt like I needed to do, I did that first, and then I could help somebody else. And that made me understand a whole lot of things, because I knew I had done a lot of good things for a lot of people. But here he is telling me I'm selfish, and finally I understood what that means. So what's the antidote to selfishness? Unselfishness. And that's the thing that makes me pick up the phone at 10:30 at night when I don't feel like it. That's the thing that makes me go to a meeting when I don't feel like it. That's the thing that makes me, do all kinds of stuff in AA. And guess what? It absolutely worked, because my problems became less and less and less important. I became less interested in my little plans and designs. And understanding that part of this program was a big deal. But we still had some issues around step 3. Because we're in Andrews, Texas. We're in that little AA building downtown there. And it's Sunday afternoon after a meeting. And just me and him in there, and we went over this step 3 stuff, and I'm feeling, I understand what selfishness is. And he said, okay, we're going to do this 3rd step prayer. I was like, whoa. I'm not even sure I believe in all this. Well, we're going to do it. And he jumps down on his knees. And I'm thinking, I ain't getting on my knees with no man in West Texas in no room and doing nothing. He said, you are if you want me to sponsor you. So I got down on my knees. Then he wanted to hold hands. Oh, my God. Not really the hand holding tight, but okay. So I did it, and I got up. And he said, how do you feel? Relieved that that's over with. That's how I feel. And he says, so here's what I want you to do. I want you to get on your knees every morning. As soon as you wake up, get on your knees and do that 3rd step prayer and surrender to God every morning. Can you do that? And I told him, absolutely not. I don't believe in this. I don't want to be hypocritical. And he told me, yeah, we wouldn't want you to be hypocritical. And I said, well, I can't do it. I said, I don't believe in it. He said, can you do this? Can you open the book to page 63, get on your knees, and read the words to the wall? He threw in a few extra words there, but I won't repeat them up here. I said, what? He said, get on your knees, open the book to page 63, and read the words to the wall. I guess I can do that. And I started doing that. And then I started taking the actions that are in the 4th step, and the 5th step, and the 6th step, and the 7th step. And life started changing really fast. And before long, I wasn't praying to the wall anymore. God showed up, and He showed up big. And it changed my whole attitude, my actions and reactions to life. That's what we're after here is a psychic change. My point is, if you're sitting here and you're doubting this God thing like I was, if you're doubting if this will really work, there's a lot of people in this room that are living proof that this really works. At 6 weeks sober, there's a guy that I was in Laha with, and he was 2 weeks behind me, and he gets out, and he's in Midland. He said, Jerry, I can't find anybody here that'll take me through these steps quickly, like they told us at Laha. And I'm like, I know somebody will. I'll talk to my sponsor. And I talked to my sponsor, and he said, yeah, I know somebody that will. You. I'm like, I'm 6 weeks sober, dude. I can't do this. Yeah, you can. If you get in a bind, call me. So we went through the first 3 steps, and he drove from Midland over to Andrews to meet with me, and we were up in my office upstairs above the panel shop. And we did his 5th step. And I left that building, walking down them steps on the outside of that building. I left that building knowing for the first time in my life that I had spent the last 2.5 hours being exactly where God wanted me to be and doing exactly what God wanted me to do. And it was the best high I ever had. And I continue to get to have that frequently. It put everything else to shame. It was the most incredible feeling. And this program isn't about feelings, but sometimes you get some pretty good ones out of it. I was hooked after that. I started sponsoring people, got active in the program. We moved to San Angelo. I was sitting in a meeting in San Angelo, and it wasn't being run the way I thought it should be run, and I was praying, and I was like, God, am I even supposed to be in San Angelo? I'm listening to some guy drone on for 20 minutes about something, and I'm like, oh my God. Am I even supposed to be in San Angelo? And one of the few times in my life I've ever had a thought come into my brain and thought for sure that was God. It said, sit in this chair for a year and watch what can happen. And I did. And every time they'd share for 20 or 30 minutes, and if and when I got a turn to share, I'd share 3 minutes or less straight out of the solution. No matter what the topic was, there's a way. There's not any topic they can cover in any meeting that you can't bring back to this book. And I would do that. And some other people were doing that. And I'm almost a year later to the day, some people got together and we were talking, and they said, we should start a meeting. And I'm like, cool. We got a resentment and a coffee pot. That's all we need. And we did. And then God blessed this group. And it wasn't because of me. It wasn't because anybody else that was there. It was because God's all over this. And the reason God's all over this is we stick to the solution in this meeting. We don't talk about the problem. You ever been to one of them meetings? Who's got the problem? Who's got the problem? Oh, I got it. Here. Let me talk about my divorce for the 15th time for 30 minutes of this 60-minute meeting. And that's okay. I still like to go to those kind of meetings once in a while. I'm not dissing any meeting. There's good happens in every meeting. And I like to go to those meetings, especially to poach sponsees. I went many times to another meeting in town that meets on Tuesday night, where I don't know how many guys, how many years were in that room. But it was a pretty incredible meeting, and they had newcomers there all the time. I liked that meeting too. And then what happened is, so we're here, I'm 7 years sober. My son had went to treatment. He'd gotten out. He had stayed sober for almost a year. He was living in a sober house. He asked me if he could move home and pay me rent, and a little bit of greed got to me, and I thought, yeah, that might be all right. He's doing good. Won't hurt anything. And he moved home, and he ended up in a new relationship, and he quit doing the stuff he was supposed to be doing. And the day he was supposed to get his 1-year chip, I found him dead in his bedroom from an overdose. Most of you guys know about that. I almost drank over that a few times in the next few months. I was mad at God. And you know, my meditations have never been real formal. I used to try to meditate and get in all these weird positions and all this stuff, you know. And my sponsor told me, why don't you just go out on your back porch and have a cup of coffee with God? Oh, let's do that. And I did that. But after that, my meditations with God, it was the wintertime, I wasn't on the back porch. I'd be in my recliner, and I'd get up early, and I'd still have meditation time with God, but a lot of it would be me cursing God and asking God why you did this to me. But that first sponsee I told you about, he's still sober today, and so am I, because of God. He called me in May, and he said, we're going to that reunion at that treatment center. I told him, and because we went every year, and he'd come through here and pick me up. I said, no, I'm not going this year. And he said, yeah, you are. And he came and he picked me up, and we went. And there was a lady talking, and she was talking about losing her husband in early sobriety. And she said something, it's just one of those God things. She said, there's a moment when grief turns into self-pity. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I came back and I got back more involved and all that stuff and didn't end up drinking. 3 years ago, I go to the doctor and I get diagnosed with chronic leukemia. Never thought about drinking. A year ago, this is so great. A year ago, I'm working at my job, which I liked. I'm working for Brian. Things are going along smooth, and my personal email gets hacked. And I don't think too much about it, except it sent this thing out that said applicant.doc as an attachment, but there was no attachment when you tried to open it. Well, there was a girl that I went to treatment with that's real high placed in the treatment center I work at. And she calls me up, are you looking for the job? Are you looking for the job? I'm like, what job? I'm not looking for a job. She's like, well, I didn't see how you could be. We hadn't posted it yet. But she saw that applicant.doc. And I said, no. I've got a job. I'm good. And I went home, and then Mindy said the fateful words she'll probably never forgive herself for. She said, did you pray about that? So we prayed about it. The next day I called that girl up to find out what was going on and everything. I ended up with an interview and got hired like 30 minutes after the interview. The tricky thing was I got hired at about half salary of what I was making. Now you got to picture this. We're living out there by the lake on the canal. My kids are all here. My grandkids are close. Going to retire at some point and live on the lake and drive the boat around. You know, pretty cool. We just felt like God had said, this is what you got to do, and we just picked up everything and went to Brownsville, Texas, which is, my house is 1.4 miles from the border. I work on South Padre Island, which is about a 30-minute drive. But God did want us to move there. And it's been life-changing. I get to help people every day, and it's just amazing. And sure enough, we got down there, and COVID had wiped out all the meetings, and there wasn't very many meetings. So we got with some people that were really working the program, and we started the Brownsville Solution Group. And it's running about 40 or 50 people at a meeting right now. 182,000 people down there. And like 3 AA meetings, and most of them were shut down because of COVID. It's been incredible. There's a little treatment center down there that's state funded where we take some H&Is. It's been awesome. I miss my family. So does Mindy. But we know we're doing what God wants us to do, and that's what matters. God can get you through anything. Your higher power can get you through anything. It's just us. And sometimes it seems like you're just going through the motions of doing this stuff. That's okay. Keep doing the motions. Because it's not about what your brain's telling you, and it's not about how you feel about it at any moment. You know how to tell how spiritually connected, how I tell how spiritually connected I am? It's not based on feeling, because some days I don't feel very spiritual. It's based on, instead of basing it on my feelings, writing down my actions for the last 2 or 3 days. That tells me how spiritually connected I am. You know, my second sponsor told me something. He said, it's impossible to be discourteous and spiritual in the same moment. And I had to think about that. And then I started thinking about all the other words I could put in there. It's impossible to be unkind and spiritual in the same moment. We do this deal with love, and we don't always have the love to give, but our higher power gives it to us to give. And when that love's flowing through us to other people, incredible things happen. Look around you. Everyone sitting here is a miracle. And how many lives have you touched? And how many lives have they touched? How many kids are getting their mamas or daddies back tonight because we're at a meeting? How many husbands are getting their wives back? How many wives are getting their husbands back? How many mamas are getting their kids back? It's incredible to think about. It's an honor to be part of it. I wish I had something brilliant to say to close, but all I can say is, for me, spirituality is a set of actions. It's not about what I'm thinking, feeling, and believing. It's a set of actions. And when I take those actions, God shows up in an incredibly wonderful way. And my life has never been happier. Thank y'all so much. I miss you guys, and I love you.